Hey everyone, happy Sunday. I'm still a little bit sick, but wanted to take the time. It's right around this time of year. I will be honest, without going back in my health records, I can't remember the exact day anymore. But we are coming up on both the 6th and the 3rd anniversary of being diagnosed with cancer. The 6th in 2017, I had gone in what I had hoped was just a routine check on a mole that was looking a little odd. My dermatologist it was the first time I'd actually seen a dermatologist as well, and she had worked at Johns Hopkins and had studied melanoma, and looking at it, she was even like, no, yeah, it looks a little odd, but I don't think it is anything. You're going to be good. I'll give you a call. Results are probably going to take a little over a week. So, I'll give you a call or we'll post your stuff online. It's like, awesome, cool. But within 2 days, my telephone rang right as I was like walking in the door from work, and I saw that it was Kaiser. And I was like, this isn't good. And sure enough, pick it up, and she tells me I have cancer. I was home alone and did not know what to do. My brain just kind of shut down. The only thing that I could think of was, I need Josh. And he was on the road, coming home from work, I think, or doing something, whatever it was. I know he had Braden in the car with him. So I was like, I need to tell him. And so call him, trying to be discreet, but that was difficult. And just asked him like, hey, when are you going to be home? And he's like, why? And I'm like, no reason. And it ended up coming out. Like he knew something was wrong. He wouldn't not let me say what it was. And so while he was in the car with our son, who at the time was five, that the results had come back cancerous. And I remember him walking in the door, shuffling our son in, and he just grabbed me in this giant bear hug and wouldn't let go. And that made it a little better. I don't remember now if I cried right away or if I was just too numb. I know at some point, I think probably that night for sure, once I was able to kind of wind down and Josh and I were sitting together, that I finally did cry, a nice big one. And I think, obviously the biggest challenge with that was like, well, what do we do now? I was incredibly lucky that they worked very, very fast, as in, she's like, I know I need to get you in touch with like the head and neck surgery department. They're probably going to want to, go in based on like some of the numbers and things. They are going to need to do more. We can't just take the mole and that be it. And within, I want to say a week, maybe a week and a half, I was in surgery for the first time, where they did a sentinel lymph node biopsy. And then same thing, it was all right, well, your chances are really good. There's probably only about a 20% chance that the cancer went anywhere beyond the mole. So, don't worry about it. You'll probably hear from us. It's going to take a while for pathology. I think surgery was Monday or Tuesday. On Friday, I got a call from the head and neck surgeon. Same thing, even though I only had a 20% chance that there was going to be anything, sure enough, it was something. And now I had to go back in the next Tuesday and go in for a much more serious surgery where they took as many lymph nodes out from this area as possible. It was over 100, closer to 200. I honestly can't even remember now. It was a stupid, huge number of lymph nodes that they took out. And at that point, it was kind of the same thing. Really small chance that it's gone any further than those 2 sentinel nodes. We'll let you know. Luckily, that time was true. It had not spread anywhere else. So with that, I went through, I did a clinical trial with them, actually. And I ended up not getting on it was like kind of like the double blind study. You get randomly selected to either be on this newer medication or this older medication, and I got chosen to do the older medication. I was only able to manage staying on it for like over the summer. It had so many negative side effects, and then he ended up putting me on prednisone to try and battle those side effects. And then that just, I'm sure any of you who have ever been on prednisone have, especially a prolonged period of time, my face was huge. I had moon face. Like I look back at pictures and go, oh dear God, because my face was just so huge. And yeah, and we dealt with that, and we went through, and then I went back for tests after tests after tests, every 6 months or so, and everything looked awesome. We were doing good. And then I got pregnant after we had been trying for a really, really long time, to have another kid, finally get pregnant. And I'm about 3 months in, and no, a little more. Well, it was like January, February-ish, where all of a sudden I started feeling a lump on my neck. Not like, it wasn't like a mole or anything. It was actually like what I was pretty sure was a lymph node that was inflamed, and it kept getting bigger and bigger, and it wasn't going away. And my first thought was, I probably just have a cold, and I had kind of cold. I'm like, it's probably nothing, but let me call my primary care just to be on the safe side. And I think I sent them a message, and they're like, oh no, it's nothing. If it's still here, or if it's still doing something like that in another month, call us back, but it's probably nothing. And I was like, did you read my medical history? Like, this is odd. And you're just telling me to wait a whole nother month. Oh yeah, by the way, this is now 2020 and we're in the middle of COVID, all right? Right at the start of COVID. So no one's really wanting to do anything that's unnecessary, because everyone's like, nah, God. But I wasn't comfortable with that. I ended up, I think, emailing them back like 2 more times and never got a satisfactory answer. It was basically, no, like, you're overreacting. It's probably nothing. Call us back in a month. So I'm like, let me call my oncologist. I probably should have done that to begin with. Sure enough, immediately they're like, oh my God, yes, let's get you in. And I was like, oh, and by the way, I'm pregnant. They're like, ooh, well, let's get you in for an ultrasound. So they did it that way. They went in and did an ultrasound first. That didn't tell them anything. They did now I'm trying to remember if they did 2 ultrasounds or if they did just the one, but they did do a biopsy, like an ultrasound guided biopsy, to get pieces of the lymph node. And then I waited, and I was like, well, last time I heard so fast, so it's probably nothing, right? Well, the issue had been who had put the orders in, that my oncologist wasn't the one to put the order in for the guided biopsy. It had been a radiologist, and so the results went to the radiologist and not to my oncologist. And I sat there and I waited. It ended up getting to the day after my 3-year anniversary at that point, and I called my oncologist and went, have you guys heard anything? It's been like 2 weeks. I think it had been about 2 weeks, maybe more. And he called me back immediately and was like, oh dear God, I'm so sorry. I did not get these. I just went in and looked in your medical record number, and I'm really, really sorry, but your cancer's back. Okay, well, now what do we do? Because now I'm pregnant. They can't really do any major scans. We can't start treatment. She's not due until July, and it's March. I think it was March. But yeah, like I said, it was right around March, April-ish time. And so we kind of went back and forth, and he's like, well, our hope is it hasn't spread anywhere else. It's probably contained in that one lymph node, but we don't know, and we can't do another test. We're just going to have to wait and see. And that was, ridiculously scary. This thing on my neck just kept growing and growing to the point where, like, 1, I was hurting, and 2, it had lifted up so much that you could, like, visually look at me. If you were facing me here, you could see this lump on my neck. That's like a goiter or something. And so at one point they're like, well, I think it had been like a month since they did the test, our power kind of flickered there a little bit. Hang on. I lost my light. Hang on, I gotta fix it. There we go. So yeah, it had been about a month since I got the biopsy, and this thing had like doubled in size. I was sure. I was like, it's not smaller by any means. It's getting bigger. Is there anything else we can do? He's like, well, we can get you in for a CAT scan. That's pretty safe, but we are going to have to do some, injection of stuff, but we're going to keep it as low as possible. So then they had me connecting with the like OBGYN department, like their emergency team. They had me talking to like the radiologist department. Everyone was in on this to make sure it would be safe for me and the baby to get this scan at this lower dose of radiation. And overall, they're like, yeah, it should be safe. And sure enough, when the scan came back, it had over doubled in size in less than a month. So he's like, we need to do something. And so my question for him, I was like, can't we just take it out? I'm like, if the OBGYN department says it's okay and it's safe for the baby, can't we just go into surgery and remove it? Because at this point, his concern was that if we waited till after the baby was born, then it will have grown like around important parts like blood vessels and everything, and then I wouldn't have been able to get rid of it. We would have had to completely rely on treatment to try and make sure that it shrunk, which was either radiation or immunotherapy. And he wasn't quite comfortable with that, just in case. And so I was like, let's just take it out. And he goes, if they say it's okay, let's do it. And they did. And it was, I think, a good thing that they did. And then within about another month, my blood pressure after the surgery had gotten so wonky, and I ended up with preeclampsia. And then he was already talking with OBGYN department about delivering early and trying to deliver as early as possible so we could start me on treatment as soon as possible. And so she was already going to be delivered 3 weeks early. Well, at 5 weeks early, I'd gone in for a stress test, and they're like, you're not leaving and you're having a baby. So she was born 5 weeks early, and by the next morning after I delivered, I was getting a brain MRI and other things too, just to make sure it hadn't spread anywhere else. And we started on treatment within about a week and a half, 2 weeks after after we had our daughter. And so that, just the trauma of both of those times tied into the same time of the year for me has been a challenge. I'm feeling better this year, despite the fact that my last scan, wasn't showing very good things. But I feel like I'm handling this time of year a little bit better. And so I know this will turn into a very long video as for my recap of my last 6 years of cancer. But I appreciate you guys watching, and I know there's a bunch of you who have watched my older videos and you already know all of this stuff. So thank you for bearing with me and re-listening and learning about my history here. Does anyone else have any, I want to say like trauma or like a certain time of year that's really harder because of, or like for the one, so there was someone who commented that said she has issues when the phone rings. Me too. Because of that first phone call that happened back 6 years ago, for the longest time, anytime the phone would ring, especially if the caller ID said it was Kaiser, I would flip out. Like my heart would start racing. I'd get short of breath, and I would have to listen to them through like this fog of panic. So yeah, share in the comments if anyone else kind of deals with anything like that, kind of PTSD-ish feelings from your own diagnoses or things that you've gone through. And I'm going to leave it there for now. So I appreciate you guys so much again for listening, for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Be kind, make good choices.